Today I'll be reading Chapter 7 of Only Fools Rush In, a college AU by Vindicated Virgil on Tumblr, bookishpanda on AO3. Trigger warnings apply to this chapter, including anxiety attacks, mentions of suicide attempt, blood mention, lots of self-doubt, vague sex mentions, and mentions of scars. Also, more Wicked the Musical spoilers. Please take caution while reading and/or listening. Chapter 7, Performance Anxiety. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Virgil stood off stage, hands wringing as he watched the final scenes of the dress rehearsal. Roman was in his scarecrow outfit then, and he reached down into the hatch under the stage to pull up the actress who was playing Elphaba. "Fiyero, I thought you'd never get here," the actress said, embracing Roman tightly, touching his face. "Go ahead, touch. I don't mind." Roman breathed deeply. "Ah, you did the best you could. You saved my life." "You're still beautiful," she said, and Roman laughed lightly, looking down at the ground. "You don't have to lie to me," he responded, and Virgil chewed on his lower lip, watching their foreheads press together. "It's not lying, it's looking at things another way." Her voice wavered, and Virgil knew she'd be the one receiving a standing ovation on opening night. Still, he turned on his heel. He couldn't bear to watch Roman kiss her again. Fiyero kissed both leads, and Virgil tried to avoid watching those moments every single time, though he had accidentally seen the kiss between Roman and the actress who played Glinda earlier, and it was now the only thing he saw when he closed his eyes. When she was called on stage to join the curtain call, he held Nessarose's actress's hand tightly, not looking to where Roman was situated between those playing Glinda and Elphaba. Later, he sat in the green room, wiping off the silver makeup of the Tin Man, his mind and heart racing. Perhaps playing a character like Bach was starting to affect the way he thought, the way he was reacting to his relationship with Roman. Things were so new between them, but the feelings were so strong. Roman had started saying he loved Virgil more frequently, and he wondered if the shorter man was expecting him to say it back soon. He wasn't ready to say it, though. Maybe he felt it, but the words were like lumps in his throat that he couldn't bear to get rid of yet. Virgil's parents never once told him that they loved him. The first person to tell him those words was Janice, and even after being best friends for so long, Virgil only said those words to the other on very rare occasions. What did that one song say? Only fools rush in. Virgil didn't want to be a fool. He didn't want to rush. He wanted to take his time, but it was so hard when Roman was so perfect. Perfect Roman bringing over flowers from Patton's mom's floral shop, taking him to sit under the stars or in the sunshine, bringing a smile to his face and kissing his cheeks. It made Virgil want to burst into tears. No one other than Janice had ever paid him this much attention. Every single time Roman leaned up on the tips of his toes to kiss Virgil's lips with as much love and passion as the first time. It made Virgil weak at the knees. It made him want to latch on to Roman and never let go. And he wondered if Roman kissed the actresses the same way. If he gave them the same amount of consideration and gentleness as he did when Virgil was feeling anxious. If the girls could taste Roman's cherry chapstick or the lingering flavor of the iced coffee that the couple would share during rehearsal breaks. Virgil only had to kiss the actress playing Nessa Rose on the cheek, and even so, they hadn't done it in every rehearsal. The character of Bach, so in love with Glinda, only being with Nessa because he felt bad for her, because he thought that if he was kind to her, then Glinda would pay him attention, was not the kindest character to play. Was Virgil like him? Or was Roman like Fiyero, staying with Glinda to keep up appearances, but secretly in love with Elphaba, until the two eventually run away together and let everyone believe they are dead? Janice slid out of bed to get more water from the kitchen. He glanced at the clock on the wall, noting that it was nearing 4 a.m. When he passed Virgil's room, the light shone under the door, and he could hear scribbling and crumpling, and concern shot through him. Janice knocked once at the door, peering in. "V, you all right?" Janice was always hesitant to walk into Virgil's room. Sometimes he got flashbacks of the day that he had found Virgil on his bed, the blood seeping through his clothes as he rushed to care for his best friend. Janice shook his head, trying to shake the thought from his mind as he saw Virgil sitting cross-legged on the floor, notebook open, but many crumpled pages scattered around. "Why aren't you sleeping?" "Can't sleep. I need to figure this out." Virgil's voice was hoarse, and when he glanced up at Janice, his eyes were red, the dark circles underneath deeper than they'd been in a while. Janice settled on the floor beside him, glancing at the words he was writing down. Virgil, similarities to Bach. Weak, no heart. Roman, similarities to Fiyero. Is he cheating on me? Does he love someone else? Does he even care? Is he kissing someone else? Janice frowned, then took the notebook out of Virgil's hands. "Hey, look at me, right now. You two are not your characters, okay? And you are not weak, V." He set the notebook down and took Virgil's shaking hands in his own. "Talk to me." Roman kisses the leads, and I'm off stage watching, and I can't do it. Virgil shut his eyes tightly, trying to hold the tears in. "I'm not good enough for him, Jan. I can't be." Janice's frown deepened, and he rubbed his thumbs against the back of Virgil's hands. "Breathe with me, V. Hey, look in my eyes and breathe," Janice ordered, and Virgil met his eyes, the tears spilling over the edge. The two sat and breathed deeply together, Virgil following Janice's lead for several minutes, until the shaking stopped and the tears were dribbling down his cheeks instead of streaming down them. Eventually, Virgil clambered into Janice's lap, the way he had so many times on those difficult nights during high school. Janice ran his fingers through Virgil's hair with one hand and rubbed circles on his wrist with the other, like he always did. The tall man's tears slowed to a stop, and his breathing fully evened out. But Janice could tell that Virgil was anxious about the situation. He'd known the other man for so long that he could feel the emotions pouring out, even if they were both sitting in silence. "Virgil, I'm going to call Roman, okay?" Janice's voice was smooth, and instantly Virgil was sitting up, panic crossing his face. "No, please. No, he can't see me like this, Jan," Virgil pleaded, but Janice shook his head. "I need you. No one else. Please, don't force me out or make me someone else's problem." Guilt tore through Janice's body, and he held back tears, taking Virgil into his arms again. "That isn't what I'm doing," Janice started to explain, regret filling his bones. I see how much Roman helps you and how he makes you feel. If you're going to remain with him, then he does need to see this. He needs to know how to help you." Virgil kept shaking his head, and Janice sighed, his fingers lacing their way back through the long hair. "Do you love him?" You know how I feel about saying that." Virgil's voice was hoarse again, his heartbeat uneven. Janice nodded at this, but didn't say anything. "He loves me, but how could he continue to feel that way for me if he sees me like this, sees me doubting him? What if it scares him off?" "Well, then he's not worth your time or your love," Janice said very matter-of-factly, and Virgil whined aloud at this revelation. The sociology major sighed, his fingers twisting at the other's hair a bit. "In all honesty, V, he won't get scared off. He loves you, and he only wants to be there for you." "I'm here for you," Janice said softly, sitting in the chair next to the main tattoo chair. It was Virgil's 18th birthday, and he decided to celebrate by getting his first tattoo. Janice happily joined him, but Virgil was starting to get a bit nervous. "If you want to leave, we can, okay?" "No, I need to do this." Virgil had decided that once he turned 18, everything would change. And that started with doing something for himself that his parents would never want him to do. He laid on his stomach, holding Janice's hand tightly as the tattoo artist did his job, a storm cloud on the back of his left hip. Virgil didn't know what it was about that spot or that tattoo, only that after storm clouds, things got better. Rainbows come. He didn't know when to expect his rainbow, but he hoped it would arrive soon. A few months after the storm cloud tattoo, he got gauges in his ears to commemorate moving into the apartment with Janice. At the time, he thought that was his rainbow. Roman was over at the apartment in record time. When he saw Janice's name on the screen at 4 a.m, of course only the worst possible scenarios ran through his head. Roman had thought of every outcome before Janice could get out the words. Virgil was anxious about the play, about the characters the two of them had taken the roles of, and about the kiss scenes. And so Roman grabbed his coat and slipped on into his sneakers, then ran the few blocks between apartments, all while in his pajamas. When he arrived at the apartment, Janice was sitting at the dining table, his head in his hands, a mug of tea in front of him. "He was dozing off, but you should go in there," he had said. Roman thought that Janice was going to fall asleep right there, but said nothing as he made his way into Virgil's room. And he was dozing off, back against the foot of the bed and legs curled up underneath him. Roman sat down next to him, pulling the taller man into his arms, pressing soft kisses to the unshaven face. Hey, babe, talk to me. What's going on? Virgil's eyes focused on Roman's face, and then he crumpled, pressing his face into the other man's shoulder. I'm so weak. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Virgil hiccuped after saying these words, and Roman just rubbed circles on his back, waiting for the psychology major to elaborate. I can't bear to see you kissing them, because what if you kiss them the same way as you kiss me, and I'm not special, and I mean nothing to you, and whoa, okay. Okay, babe, you need to listen to me. Roman took a deep breath before continuing. You are the most special person in the world, okay? I love you so fucking much. And you know what? You mean everything to me. His voice was firm and confident, and Virgil sniffled into his shoulder. I give them pecks, that's all. And before we had our first rehearsal, I told them both that it would be nothing more than that, because I am with you and no one else. But what if I'm not good enough and you hate me because I'm such a mess? Virgil cut himself off, not wanting to continue the sentence. Roman's voice was there again, though, grounding the anxious man. Virgil, can I kiss you? If you're feeling too uneasy for that, I won't, but I want to show you how much you mean to me. He made no movements, but Virgil pulled away from his shoulder and nodded, wiping the snot and tears off of his face with his jacket sleeve. Roman smiled a bit at this, and then leaned in, pressing their lips together in much the same way as that day that they first kissed. Sloppy, a little rushed, but so full of adoration and love. Roman, you are my rainbow. Virgil and Roman sat on the edge of the stage, their hands linked as they listened to the director make announcements for the next week of rehearsals. They'd have the rest of that day off to rest, but then there would be full rehearsals the following 3 days, leading up to their final dress rehearsal, and then opening night. Ever since the night, or late morning, depending on your view of time, that Roman came to comfort Virgil, they had been spending every night in Virgil's bed, Roman comforting and holding his boyfriend close, talking him through anxiety attacks and running their lines until one or both of them dozed off. The others had started to wonder if they should all move into one of the apartments and sell the others, but 6 guys in 1 bathroom was not an ideal situation. Logan had decided that he would try to locate a home with enough bedrooms and several restrooms for them to move into at the end of term. But, until then, everyone was spending most of their time with their partners. That night, though, Roman and Virgil went back to the apartment that Roman lived in, with Logan and Patton, because Roman needed to get some more clothes from his closet. He explained it to Virgil as, "I've got to slay every day," and the taller man didn't argue, even though he did wonder if Roman got tired of his constant black jeans, t-shirts, and hoodies. As they entered the building, they ran into Remy and Emile, who they hadn't seen for several weeks due to how busy they all had been. Emile tried pulling Virgil in for a hug, but the tall man just shook his head, looking down to avoid seeing the upset look on the cartoon lover's face. "Virgil, are you studying for your exams properly? Grades are important if you want to get in that doctoral program someday." Emile's voice was cheerful, but it only made Virgil want to sink into the floor. "I could help you study next week if you like." No, not next week. We have performances and rehearsals every day for the next 2 weeks, but after that, I could use some help. Maybe." Virgil's voice was low, and Roman said nothing, but the two excused themselves to go up to the apartment. He wanted to say something, but Virgil just pulled him into the bedroom, passing Logan, who was at the kitchen counter, working on assignments. When they got into the bedroom, Virgil flipped the lock and kissed Roman suddenly, roughly, albeit a bit awkwardly. Roman didn't have time to protest. He eased into the embrace and kissed his boyfriend back with vigor, wrapping his arms around Virgil's neck. "Tonight?" Roman managed to get out between kisses, and Virgil nodded, his hands trailing to push Roman's jacket off his shoulders. The two had discussed taking their relationship to the next level, physically, that is, for a few days, and while Roman was eager for whenever that would be, Virgil was, of course, anxious about it. Roman decided to turn off the thinking part of his brain, though, and kissed down Virgil's neck, unzipping the hoodie and pulling it off. "Tonight, now. We're going to be so exhausted the next few weeks, and I don't want to wait until we're done with performances." Virgil's voice had taken on a husky tone, and Roman nodded, pushing the two over to the bed. They kissed on the bed, Roman straddling Virgil's hips for several minutes, Virgil trying to grind up into the touch. Roman pulled his own shirt off, and then his hands dove under Virgil's t-shirt, making the other flinch. He pulled his hands back, eyes full of concern as they met Virgil's wide-blown pupils. "Virg, are you okay?" I don't know." Virgil bit on his lower lip. He didn't know why he was suddenly feeling his throat constrict at the thought of Roman pulling his shirt off. They'd made out topless in the past and had been sharing a bed for several weeks. Maybe it was the knowledge that this moment was different. Virgil had never done this before. "Roman, I'm a virgin. I don't know how to do this. I feel so nervous. I don't know." "Hey, shh." Roman leaned down to kiss his cheek. "We can wait as long as you need, even if it's weeks or months from now. I'm in no rush. I love where we are now, okay? Not doing this tonight won't change how I feel about you." And at those words, Virgil felt a surge of emotion, and he wanted to say those words. He felt them bubbling up again, but they didn't come out. He couldn't say those words yet. Roman slipped his shirt back on and moved up on the bed, arms open for Virgil. The two snuggled close for a while until they decided to change into their pajamas, and once they were under the covers, the lights out, Virgil let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Virgil was standing in the cafe on campus, waiting for his order of an iced coffee for Roman and a caramel macchiato for himself, when he felt a hand clap onto his shoulder. He jumped, glancing over to see Emil's bright and shining smile. "Please don't startle me like that." "Sorry, kiddo. I was just excited to see you were here. Remy works here, and he's just about to get off his shift. Maybe you want to go to dinner with—" "I can't. Rehearsals," Virgil muttered, watching as Emil's smile fell. "I appreciate the offer, though." "I thought you were a psychology major, Virgil. Why are you spending so much time on something that you're not going to pursue in the future?" Emil's question surprised Virgil, who crossed his arms. "I am a psychology major, but I'm also a theater minor. I love doing this stuff. Please don't judge me." Virgil had had his fair share of doubts on the subject before. "I can focus on both." "I'm not saying that you can't, kiddo. It's just, well, you seem distracted." Virgil glared at Emil over these words. "You don't know me. Please don't start acting like you can see right through me with all of this. I'm not distracted. I'm focused." Virgil said nothing more before grabbing the 2 drinks from the counter and heading out the door and towards the theater, where he knew Roman would be waiting with a kiss and a hug. Was he distracted? Was Roman distracting him from his education? He had been performing well in his courses and rehearsals. He hadn't missed any assignments. Virgil couldn't think that he could be distracted, but theater had become something more to him, and a big reason for that was Roman, his rainbow. And he'd do anything to ensure that that rainbow stayed, because he didn't know if he could bear the storm clouds returning.